Hi y'all, I'm Obscure Girl. I like movies. I like weird movies. I like weird, trippy, obscure movies that I feel like no one has seen or is talking about. Whether that be because they're just old, or the marketing was bad, or you're like, I think that was a fever dream I had when I was 5. I'm here to tell you, it wasn't. Let's talk about it. And today, I am having a special episode for a very, very special viewer. Happy birthday to my one lovely husband. So today we're going to be talking about one of his favorite movies that I will admit is more famous, but all the elements of it are a very, very obscure kind of movie that, had this not had the cast and the budget that it had, probably would not have been as well known as it is. I said elements. Anyway, the acting is spectacular. The design, amazing. The effects were good for its time. And the plot, the acting's amazing. I'm, of course, talking about the 1997 cult classic, The Fifth Element. The non-spoiler premise of this movie is kind of hard, but here's a go for it. Every 5,000 years, this pure evil source of alien is coming to Earth, and only these good aliens helping us with these 4 sacred stones and a mysterious 5th element are humanity's only hope to survive this evil that just wants to wipe out the world. And there are way too many interested parties when that 5,000 year mark comes up. A lot of interested parties. But it all ends up coming down to one ex-military, now cab driver, Bruce Willis. That's what I got for non-spoilers. I'm not gonna lie, the plot can be kind of confusing. Honestly, it wasn't even until this watching, when I'm like taking notes, that I even notice a lot of plot points. And I've watched this movie a lot. Like, it's not just his favorite movie. I genuinely enjoy this movie, full well knowing the plot details are kind of hard to grasp at points. But from this point on, I will be giving the full spoiler review. Just know I might poke fun at this movie, but I do love it. Without any further ado, The Fifth Element. We start our film in 1914 Egypt with Aziz, light!
Aziz, light! Aziz, light.
And Luke Perry, who has a full credit in this movie. In fact, he's like the final credit, the with Luke Perry. So, you know, the spot of honor in the credits. We'll get to him. As this archaeologist is uncovering all these hieroglyphics in this ancient temple and is learning a little bit too much about the oncoming evil and the prophecy of the 5th element, to where this one suspicious priest needs to kind of get involved and wants to end up poisoning the professor and Luke Perry because they know too much. Also, the good guy aliens are on the way. And when the good guy aliens show up, and they do, which are kind of like these giant, slow-moving mech aliens that look kind of like war machines, but they're actually the good guys. But they say that these stones are no longer safe on Earth, and so they have to go with them along with the 5th element for protection. And in 300 years from this point, when the evil does come to Earth, we'll be here as well. And then Luke Perry, who's completely freaked out, ends up shooting at one of the machines, and so the rest of them all retreat, except for this one guy who is just a little bit too slow, who ends up getting sealed into this like temple chamber. But not before he gets to pass off the key to the priest, who is supposed to, for the several generations of his order, finally, when the aliens come back, give the key back to them. Cool? Cool. That's a lot for the first couple of minutes. Also, that's all we see of Luke Perry. That whole credit of honor, he's there maybe 3 minutes of screen time. I just find this hilarious. I know it was the 90s, I know 90210, but oh my god, he got like the good credit and he's just not there. Anyway. So fast forward 300 years into the 23rd century, and everything is fairly futuristic looking. There's a lot of space travel, a lot of flying cars, and some for the time, 97, pretty decent effects. There are other ones where it's like, if you're watching it on Blu-ray, okay, this kind of looks like an old screensaver. But for the most part, especially if you were watching it on VHS, oh my God, like, impressive for the 90s, I will say. For today, they were impressive for the 90s. So the big evil has been detected, and the President of the United States, played by Tom Lister Jr., is fighting between all of his military men and advisors what to do about this giant ball of fire that keeps getting bigger and moving closer. And the new priest of the order, played by Ian Holm, Bilbo Baggins.
Bilbo Baggins, bravest little hobbit of them all,
is trying to tell the president exactly what it is and exactly what he needs to do about it, and says that it is pure evil, and evil begets evil. So if you shoot things at it, it's just going to get stronger. Of course, though, there's way too many military guys, so he gets overruled, and all of the military guys are just like, yeah, shoot first, ask questions later. Military guys, I swear. So they end up, of course, shooting at it, and it gets bigger. Big surprise. And not only that, but everyone that was on the military ship that was shooting at the giant evil ball end up dying from mysterious forehead blood, which I'm pretty sure was mane and tail. Like, it looked like the stuff they used on us in my haunted house days. I think it's mane and tail. It could also be steak sauce. I don't know. But we then cut to Corbin Dallas, played by Bruce Willis, with hair. In a criminally small apartment where, the fridge and the shower can, move up and down. The bed gets tucked away and wrapped in plastic every night for freshness. I don't know. But it is barely a closet that just has all the amenities one could need in a probably like 10 by 15 space. And in one phone call, we get a lot of exposition in a little amount of time. Basically, his ex-wife left him for another guy, presumably his lawyer, and he is looking for the perfect girl. He is living with his ex-wife's cat, and he is an ex-military big shot from like special ops, and now drives a cab and has barely any points left on his driver's license. Oh yeah, and he's getting robbed. The scene is kind of slightly hilarious because the guy who was robbing him had like a picture of the hallway on his head, like on a hat, so he had it like this, and so when he looked in the people, it looked like the hallway, and then like, haha, it's a gun. But then he very, very quickly is able to disarm this guy who is tweaking so hard, and he gets a new gun out of the deal. And that's just how we learn about his character, and the whole thing's done in less than 5 minutes. So back with the president, the priest named Cornelius ends up telling the president that they have 48 hours before evil will completely overtake the planet. So they have 48 hours to find the stones and the fifth element. Luckily, the good guy aliens are on the way. Unluckily, as the good guy aliens are literally on the way, a ship of bad guy mercenaries ends up taking out their entire ship. Everyone thinks that the stones and the fifth element are lost. However, they are able to find a piece of one of the surviving pieces of this wreckage, and are able with space technology to recreate the entire being that it was attached to. Luckily enough, that being happens to be the fifth element, played by Milla Jovovich. God, I love saying that name. And the bad guy mercs were hired by one Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg.
Emmanuel Zorg.
Played by the one and only Gary Oldman. I love Gary Oldman. I think he's one of the best actors out there. I'm sure a lot of people agree with me. And in this role, the character design, his hair, his clothes, but then also the mannerisms, the accent he chose to have, all of these things makes this incredibly memorable bad guy. That, from my understanding, Gary Oldman thought this whole thing was kind of dumb and silly, but he's Gary Oldman, so he went with it. And boy, did he ever. So that whole knowledge just blows my mind. Anyway, back to the fifth element. So the perfect specimen, the fifth element, is Milla Jovovich, who is supposed to be literally perfect in every way, biologically, everything else. And she has one of the most iconic, like, if you go to any nerd convention, you will see someone dressed up as her. if you're lucky, because her costumes are amazing, but this is where she's literally just covered in a couple of strategic bandages and some underwear. And though she's supposed to be in this like impenetrable kind of like containment unit, she breaks out super easy, barely an inconvenience, and ends up escaping from this military scientific facility. However, she ends up getting to a wall because the way the city is structured now is they have built up and up and up and up and up. And so all of the traffic is like space cars flying between these skyscrapers that just go up forever. And if you get low enough, you just find smog and fog. So she finds herself on the side of this never-ending, not cliff, but ledge, never-ending ledge, and jumps off. And just so happens to land right into Corbin Dallas's taxi cab, where he is immediately smitten with her. And after a kind of brief-ish police chase, he ends up taking her where she asked him to take her to Cornelius's place. And yeah, he's immediately smitten. Just thinks she's perfect because she's perfect. The priest takes her arrival well.
Fifth element.
And while he's unconscious, and the fifth element is unconscious, Corbin, who is super smitten, has a bit of a Snow White moment and ends up waking her kind of like how a lot of people wish Snow White had woken up, with a laser blaster to his temple, kind of screaming at him in this unknown language. And so he's just kind of like apologizing up and down, and he's just trying to get to know her, and finds out her name is Leelu. They have a bit of an Atlantis moment trying to get to her name.
Do you have a shorter name?
Leelu. My name is Kiragakash.
Kiramashnaga. Hey, you got a nickname?
But yeah, her name is Leelu. The priest then wakes up and kicks him out, and not before telling him that the thing she was screaming at him was never without my permission. Which, yay for consent. Okay. But then Leelu ends up telling Cornelius while watching a program that gets her caught up on the last couple of centuries, while also eating a comedic amount of chicken.
Good.
That the box with the stones was actually stolen before the ship exploded. So then we switch over to Zorg, who the mercenaries are then bringing him this box with the stones in exchange for a ridiculous amount of space weapons, because Zorg happens to be an arms dealer, a pretty big one. And while he's showing off all these crazy stuff that this gun can do, which does crack me up, I guess the mercenaries want revenge because they've been kind of like shunted out of the planet for their violent ways. And so Zorg said he would give them the weapons for their rebellion as long as they help him get the stones. Well, they end up opening the box as Leelu tells Cornelius, yeah, but the stones aren't in the box. So then Zorg has a little bit of a breakdown, exits the broom, and the room full of the mercenaries explodes with all the mercenaries in it. Meanwhile, I just learned this last night. The scene where the room explodes right behind Gary Oldman, they had not told Gary Oldman that there was going to be an explosion, and he still did not react at all. Because, and I quote, villains don't react to explosions, they just let it happen and be cool and say the line. So even when he didn't know there was an explosion, he was just so in character, he didn't react. That's not human. But neither is Gary Oldman. He was besties with David Bowie after all. Luckily for the good guys, Leelu does know exactly where the stones are, and they have to get to Fhloston Paradise, which is this big, like, destination planet and cruise type situation, where they will be meeting with a diva who is the kind of the contact for the good guy aliens in this part of the galaxy. Meanwhile, somehow the military end up learning this exact same information back with the president, and they want to send a discreet agent to go and meet up with this diva and get the stones for, Galactic Federation, blah, blah, blah. So they, of course, choose Corbin because he is the best military guy that they know that can do special ops like this that's still alive and doesn't really have anything else going on. So they fake that he wins this big old contest where there's a trip for two to Fhloston Paradise, and it is in his name. So now you have Zorg trying to get those tickets to get to Fhloston Paradise, because apparently it is super hard to get into. You have Cornelius and David, who's like his sidekick, and Leelu trying to get those tickets. And surprise, surprise, more mercenaries were alive and now want revenge against Zorg for killing a lot of their people. And so now they want the tickets so that they can get to the stones before Zorg and get their revenge that way. There's a lot of interested parties. It's a bit much. And honestly, sometimes I forget who's working with who. But Cornelius and Leelu show up to Corbin's apartment and are able to basically kind of knock him out when he's distracted and swipe his tickets and get to the spaceport. So they're supposed to be sending David, the priest assistant, with Leelu as Corbin and the +1 to go to Fhloston Paradise. But then Corbin actually ends up showing up and saying that David was just there to hold his place. So then he and Leelu are going to the Fhloston Paradise thing. Also, the police are now also involved for some reason, just to sprinkle in some added tension. And the Mercs also show up in human disguises, pretending to be Corbin Dallas. And also Zorg's right-hand man shows up pretending to be Corbin to try and claim these tickets. There's a lot going on. Also, there's a lot of space junk at the spaceport, which, cool design. It's there. However, most importantly, this is where we get the ultimate line of the movie. Multipass.
Leelu Dallas Multipass.
Yeah.
Multipass.
Leela, multipass. She knows it's a multipass.
Because that is really the kicker of this movie, is the awesome one-liners that you just quote forever and ever that make no sense out of context. Like, my roommate and I, back in the day, would repeat to each other, "Big bada boom," all the time.
Bada boom.
Big. Yeah, big bada boom.
Bada boom.
Big boom. Big bada boom.
Multipass.
Multipass.
Like, yeah. Constantly. The one-liners are ridiculous in this, and it's absolutely wonderful. So that's that scene. That's the important part. Not all the people trying to claim the tickets, not all the added tension and explosions. We got multipass.
But yeah, she knows it's a multipass. Yeah, anyway.
But as Corbin and Leelu enter the ship, we now get the comic relief of the movie. Finally, he is here. Ruby Rhod.
This boy is fueled like fire. So start melting, ladies, because the boy is hotter than hot. He's hot.
The radio host that's supposed to be covering the whole contest winner, blah, blah, blah. Played by Chris Tucker in his best role ever. Certainly the best role ever that has a fleshlight for a hairdo.
All night long, all night.
He's everything. He has a wardrobe and style that could walk the runway with Alan Cummings every season of Traitors. He's got so much charisma just coming out of his eyeballs. Everyone absolutely worships him. Women are fawning at his feet. He's surrounded by all these yes men, and he is hella famous, and it's kind of hilarious. Also, still just really funny that in, 22 something, that we still have radio hosts that are popular.
Let's begin.
That's pretty great. But yes, so Ruby Rhod is now inserted into all of this, and he is hilarious, and he is extra and everything and fabulous, and he is now going to be the thorn in Corbin's side, and I cannot wait. So while Corbin and Leelu get on the ship and they are getting into their whole pod quarters, whatever, Leelu now knows English because she is caught up enough with her program that she has learned English, and tells Corbin she's the fifth element and she's there to protect him just as much as he's there to protect her, and he gets even more smitten, and it's adorable. And then as the flight attendants are basically knocking everyone out by, hitting a button and everyone falls asleep, Cornelius ends up sneaking onto the plane through the the wheels rising or whatever with a whole bunch of like parasites. And Ruby has his own on-flight entertainment, let's just say. And the whole sequence of this entire thing cracks me up to no end, because you have Zorg finding out his right hand failed him on getting onto the ship. You've got Ruby with the flight attendant, and then there's an explosion, and then there's screaming, and then there's like the wheels are rising, and so is a girl's legs. And it is just a fantastic sequence that just should be in the editing Hall of Fame. Honestly, it's like a quick moment, but oh my god, the editing is just mwah. And then they get to Fhloston Paradise, as does the mysterious diva, who is like very, very tall and very blue and very mysterious. So Leelu ends up breaking off from Corbin to go wait outside the diva's room, basically, because she says she's going to get her the stones after her performance that night. And Corbin ends up going to his room after a little bit more stuff with Ruby. And I do find it kind of funny that Corbin won a paradise vacation for 2, yet most of the activities he's supposed to be going on, he's going on with Ruby and not his +1. So I'm just like, what kind of a vacation package is this? Also, we find out that some of the mercs made it there in human disguise and are disguised as some of the wait staff. So again, added tension. Way too many people and parties involved. But Ruby ends up taking Corbin to the opera that night to hear the mysterious diva sing, and this is where we get the diva song moment. If you don't know a lot about this movie, you probably know about Chris Tucker, and you probably know about this song. I don't know if you know the backstory to this song, which I'm just going to say really quick. I feel so bad for the girl that plays the diva. Apparently, she was with the director whose passion project this whole thing was. At the time this all started, she did all these music lessons in order to try and like learn how to sing the song properly, which is not supposed to be able to be sung by a real human, which, you know, recently has been disproved. Putting that right here. But she tried her best to actually learn it, and then not only does he end up dumping her for Mila Jovovich, he ends up getting someone else to dub over her singing for the final product of the song. I feel so bad. But it's still such a killer song in sequence, because by the second half of the song, when things start kicking off and getting a little action, you end up having the song really kind of like narrate and orchestrate the fight choreography between Leelu and the mercenaries that are trying to get into the diva's room to try and find where the stones are. But the scene is absolutely fantastic. The choreography of the fight is fantastic in accordance with the lyrics of the song. Okay, not lyrics, with the melody of the song. And it's absolutely fantastic, and Leelu ends up taking out all the mercenaries. Except now Zorg has gotten onto the plane, and he holds Leelu at gunpoint if she doesn't give over the box that they think has the stones in it. So she ends up giving off the box and then disappearing. Oh, not before she ends up disappearing into the ventilation system, which I guess they didn't want Bruce Willis in a Vent for 2 movie, so they had to have the girl into the vent this time.
Oh, so get together, have a few laughs.
Okay. But by the end of the song, the rest of the mercs end up trying to take over the entire ship, to where Corbin is trying to help not let that happen. But in the scuffle, the diva ends up getting shot and tells Corbin that the stones are in her. So literally, he has to reach in and pull the stones out of her now lifeless body, which, ew. And meanwhile, Zorg has gotten the box. He plants a bomb that'll go off in 20 minutes, and he takes off in his ship with the box. Now there's a lot more mercenary fights. Ruby is now glued to Corbin's side because he's realized this is kind of his only chance of getting out of there. And he's also live narrating everything Corbin does on air the entire time. Thank God the aliens don't have a radio broadcast in their ears. Oh my God. He's even like giving off his locations during a shootout. But also important to mention that before the diva passed away and told Corbin where the stones were, that she also says that though Leelu is perfect, she is going to need Corbin's help more than he realizes, and his love. So, because again, it is visible from space just how smitten he is with this girl. Boy be simpin'. And Ruby is now part sidekick, part damsel in distress. And screams as such. Oh my god. Actually, I think most damsels can hold it together a little bit better than he can.
A damsel? I'm in distress. I can handle this.
So after more insane fighting, explosions, and a few fun antics, Corbin goes to end up finding Leelu in the vent where she is, kind of in and out of consciousness, and is planning to take her off the ship, but that's when they find the bomb. And the battle of silly noises between Cornelius and Ruby end up ensuing right in this moment.
All these numbers. No.
And it's just kind of hilarious. And then Zorg realizes that the stones aren't in the box, as he has left the planet with a bomb.
They're not here.
And he now has to turn around and try and survive the bomb in order to get these stones. So now we have Cornelius, Ruby, Corbin, and Leelu, all this fantastic foursome. And also I think David ends up showing up again at some point. And they end up having to leave the planet quickly. They end up stealing Zorg's ship, actually. So just as Zorg is able to disable the bomb, the mercenaries end up enacting a new one that does not take 20 minutes. And now all the bad guys, except for the big bad, are destroyed, as our heroes are speeding to Egypt. Though they're not the only ones speeding to Egypt, because the giant ball o' evil has found out that they are on their way to the temple and is now speeding at light speeds after them, which obviously the president notices because they've been monitoring it this entire time. And they're able to call Corbin and let him know, hey, you've got about 2 hours before this giant ball of evil finds you in Egypt. And as they are on the ship traveling to Egypt, Leelu is finishing up her whole program on trying to catch up with what's happened in the last, 5,000 years. And she learns about war, because of course she does, and ends up having this gigantic moment of just destruction, because she's realizing, like, if I save these people, am I also a monster for saving this? So understandably so. She's only a couple hours old, guys. So they end up getting to Egypt, and Leelu is still very fragile and not wanting to deal with things, but they have the stones, and they get into the temple, and there's a whole scene with them trying to figure out how to activate the stones, which really, if you watch any Avatar: The Last Airbender episode, it's not that hard to figure out. And now they have to kind of convince Leelu why the world is worth saving, which of course Corbin ends up doing, and they save the world with the power of love. Yeah, it's corny as hell, it's cheesy as hell, but it's Bruce Willis, so he pulls it off a little bit, Like, I'd like to say this was probably one of the first times they did that corny thing, but it's already 97. Like, the cliché's been cliched. But whatever, it's still a fun movie. So they end up ending the movie after everything's been saved, the evil's been evaporated, blah, 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 with the president going to thank Corbin and Leelu for saving the day as they are resting in one of these, the 2B pod thingies, except they're doing it. So, yeah, that's how they end the movie, with them finally getting some. So that's The Fifth Element. It's cheesy, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless you watch it a whole bunch of times, and it is absolutely crazy. And I love it. I love it so much. It's absolutely hilarious. The lines are so funny. This design and the style are so memorable and so unique and really, really cool. And again, for 97, this kind of thing was really, really ahead of its time. I know it didn't have that big of a following when it first came out, but now more and more people are onto it and they know about it, and it is a more popular film now. But you can definitely say why this movie would end up on this channel. So I'm sure you've probably seen it if you are into this channel because you already like the obscure things. This is probably one you've already ticked off. But if you haven't, let me know. I would love to hear about this. If you end up watching it and you have thoughts and comments, please put them in here. If you already, have seen the movie and you have thoughts on it, please put it in the comments here. If you like this style of video, please subscribe to my channel. Please like the video. Please check me out on Patreon to help me with things like lighting and better effects in my videos. And most importantly, just keep coming back, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. I've been Obscure Girl. The rest is confetti. Happy birthday, babe.